Hi there, welcome back to Elektro Vox. Today I have the wonderful Rodney from the Cassandra Complex. So, Rodney, there's been a wide range of sounds that you've played with sort of Cassandra Complex over the years with the music you've released, sort of experimenting with different sort of styles and genres. What's been your favourite so far that you've made? What is it?
I mean, yeah, we've always had. It's always a little different for us because we've never really tried to play within any particular genre. I mean, everybody in this band is a huge music fan. Huge. We all have big collections of records back in the day when we had records, and we listen to a lot of different things, and we like a lot of different music. So we always wanted to play different things and play around with. We never wanted to just be a goth band or an industrial band or a electronic band or whatever the hell you want to call it. Even though we love music from all those genres, we just make music that we want to play. We make good songs. We write songs and we go where the song takes us. And if that means something is going to be gothic or it's going to be some bouncy electro punk or whatever, we just go with it. And it's about the song. It's not about the genre at all for us. And I think in the early days, a lot of people thought that was a weakness for us because we weren't able to be pigeonholed into, well, they're a goth band, we'll put them on, goths will go see them or whatever. But I've always thought it was a real strength, and over the long term, it's proven to be that way because it's given us a real resilience. We can basically do whatever we want. And
do what you want to get away with it, and it still sounds great.
Yeah, well, that's the whole point. I mean, as long as it sounds good, as long as it's a good record, that's all that counts. As long as it's a good show, that's all that counts. But it does, I guess it requires that people in the audience also need to want to be challenged that way. They want to hear, they don't want, I mean, if someone just wants to come and listen to a Sisters of Mercy clone, we're the wrong band.
Yeah.
But if that's what people want, that's fine. Just, we're not that band. Or from 242 clone, or whatever, a New Order clone, even though we like all those bands.
Yeah, you've got to be your own individual.
We are ourselves, and and it works. And people seem to respond to that. I mean, the new album that we just did, that's still very varied, but it still sounds like the Cassandra Complex, and people have loved it. So we just did our first album in 20 years. Which was really surprising for us, and we were like, I don't know what people are going to think of it or how they're going to react to it. But we've got best reviews we've ever had for any record we ever made. So we did something right.
Yeah, great. And I mean, with the new album as well, you've got some very incredible tracks on there, such as Hotline to Elvis. So please explain to us sort of the theme and the concepts of the albums, and how you came up with that particular track too.
Okay, well, the album's called The Plague for pretty obvious reasons, because we recorded it during lockdown. I mean, I was really lucky because I just set up a studio just before lockdown happened. So once lockdown happened, it was great. I couldn't leave the studio, which was perfect for me. So I just sat in the studio and worked on a bunch of records. I mean, I was producing records for other bands as well. But we had been starting to write the album before then. Before lockdown happened, and lockdown should have been difficult for us because I lived then in London. I live in Los Angeles now. I lived then in London during lockdown, and Andy, the guitar player, lives in Manchester, and Volker and Axel, the other two members of the band, live in Hamburg in Germany. So lockdown should have made it really difficult, but what we did is I designed a system where we had the same computer systems, recording systems in every location. And then we were able to share the files between us in video conference. So we recorded as a band, even though we were in two different countries. And that actually worked out really well. And so that's why we called it The Plague, because it was a result of COVID that we actually managed to do it the way we did. And Hotline to Elvis came about because I was listening to some bullshit, some QAnon shit, those American conspiracy theories. And I was reading some commentary, some article about it. It's like, why is white Americans rednecks starting for the first time to believe these conspiracy theories. I'm thinking, no, they've had conspiracy theories forever, because the whole thing about when Elvis died, it was like Elvis was really alive. You know, all these people thought that Elvis was alive, and it was like almost like the British King Arthur myth that Elvis was going to come back and save the world or whatever. And for years and years and years and years, thousands, hundreds of thousands of American rednecks thought that Elvis wasn't really dead and was going to come back and save everything, or he was working for the FBI and stuff, shit like this. And so I remember thinking about that, and we were writing this song, and I immediately started thinking, like, you know, I remembered back in my youth, I'd seen an advert for, there was an Elvis hotline, and you could call the Elvis hotline and report sightings of Elvis. And it was a real thing. So I went on the net and I found the original hotline and recorded. So it starts with that, is Elvis alive? Call 1-900-909-ELVIS. And that was an actual ad for the Elvis hotline. So it was immediately like, that's got to be a song. Called 1-900-909-ELVIS. I mean, that's the chorus right there. So the whole song came about for that.
That's great, because it really brings to light sort of the stupidity of people at the moment, doesn't it? I mean, I bet they made a fortune having that hotline set up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were charging people money to call up, and so like, you know, so that's where all the lyrics came from, and all the lyrics are actual Elvis conspiracy theories. As ludicrous as he may be, there's things like see him at the Taco Bell, whatever. I mean, there was loads of sightings of Elvis at Taco Bell. So apparently Elvis really likes, the reborn Elvis really loves Taco Bell, because that's where the sightings are from. So
classic conspiracy theory songs.
Yes, there you go.
Amazing.
Hotline to Elvis. So.
Okay. And before we started, you mentioned that the album has done incredibly well in the German alternative charts.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, like I said, this is the first album in 20 years, so we really weren't sure what was going to happen. We weren't sure if anyone even cared anymore. And we brought it out, and it went straight. And I was talking to my wife just before while I was working on the album, and my wife was like, when are you going to be finished? Because I spent so much time mixing it. She was like, when are you going to be finished this mix? I said, I'm going to be finished when it gets to #1 on the German alternative chart. And she was laughing like, yeah, dream on, buddy. And I'm like, no, I'm serious. So we brought the record out, and it got to #3. It went straight in at #3 in the German alternative chart. And then the next week it got to #2, and I'm like, yeah, so close, so close. And then the week after that, I went back to #3 again, and I was distraught. I'm like, how can this be? I mean, I've made this record to be #1, and it can't possibly not get to #1. And I was really upset. For a week, I was just walking around like so depressed that I didn't manage to get to #1. And then the next week, it went back up to #1. So yes. So in the end, it was #1 for like 2 or 3 weeks, and I think in the end it was top 3 for 8 weeks in a row, and which is the maximum time you can be in the charts. Because in the charts, after 8 weeks, they drop you out. So we were top 3 for the entire 2-month run, which was very nice. So thank you, Germany.
Yes, and you've mentioned about your lineup having members obviously across the globe from your band with the pandemic. You yourself have moved to America recently, and what problems have you had with the lineup today?
Well,
so,
Brexit.
Yes, tell us about that.
Anyone who voted for Brexit, I hate you. I hate you so much. Yeah, well, because 2 of the band are German, and our lighting guy, I mean, normally we have a huge, I mean, anyone who's seen us play at festivals in Europe, we have an enormous video beamer. We have masses of videos and extra amazing lighting systems and lasers and all sorts. I mean, it's like freaking alternative Pink Floyd when we play in Europe. And we have an amazing lighting guy, Martin Reisner, who's been working with us for forever. But none of them can come here because Brexit's made it really difficult, which is really, and COVID and flights being cancelled. Sender, all Brexit again. Any road. So, but what we do have tonight, which is going to be really unusual, is we have, because this band started in Leeds, which is just down the road from Bradford. We formed in Leeds, and for the first time in nearly 20 years, we're going to have the original Leeds lineup back on stage again. So that's going to be really interesting. But especially on the new songs, They're all designed for a 4-piece, so we needed to get a 4th musician in. So we have a musician playing tonight who's never played with us before, and that is our guitarist's son is going to join the band. So it's 2nd generation Cassandra Complex.
And they're all very talented individuals in your band as well, aren't they? They've all got some incredible backgrounds, is that right?
We do a lot of stuff. Yeah, we all work within the music business. I mean, when we started, I mean, we were old enough to remember the whole punk idea of do it yourself. We were very much a do it yourself band. We've never had a major label. We've never had management. Nothing like that. We do everything. And the reason we did that at the beginning, because A, we wanted to keep control of what we do, and B, we didn't want to pay 10% here, 10% there. You know, you're paying all the time, you're paying somebody else before you get paid, and we wanted to actually be able to earn enough money to survive. So we taught ourselves how to do everything. We divided the work up. So Andy, the guitar player, did all the contractual and business stuff, and he ended up doing a law degree and became a music business lawyer. So now he's a lawyer for a lot of big bands. And Axel, who is our keyboard player, he did a lot of sound, he handled all the live stuff. So he became a live sound engineer, and now he's a live sound engineer for pretty much every industrial electronic band in Germany. Is Axel's their sound engineer. So he's been at Infest at least a half a dozen times doing sound for various bands. So that's his main job. And for myself, I was really interested in the production and the studio work and everything else. So I produced records for other bands, but I got really interested in computer technology, and I was a bit of a computer nerd. So I ended up working for companies like Steinberg. I worked on Cubase and Nuendo. I went to PreSonus. I worked on Studio One for PreSonus and various other things. I worked at iConnectivity. I design interfaces, software. You know, half the bands you see are using some kind of technology that I had a hand in. Okay. So that's my other job. So even though, I mean, the Cassandra Complex is now, I mean, in this day and age, it's almost impossible to make a living playing the kind of music we play. It used to be possible back in the day. These days, not. So that's what we do when we're not on tour with the Cassandra Complex. We're still in the music business. We're just doing lots of other things that you've heard of. So
okay, that's so yeah. I mean, sort of hidden talent, or not so hidden talent, really, if it's sort of so widespread used. So, what's the most important part of making music for you? What is the driving factor that makes you do this?
That's a brilliant question, and for many, well, I think again, coming from a sort of growing up with a sort of punky attitude, when we started, I mean, I didn't know how to play shit, but we just we wanted to fucking scream at people, you know, and like it was. We're an extremely political band. We've never made any bones about that. We're extraordinarily political. Always have been. Always will be. We never wanted to. You know, I know so many musicians who want to be musicians because they want to be famous rock stars or whatever. You know, the whole, or they go to music college and learn to be a sing and dance, whatever. I hate that shit. That's never been. I've never been interested in being a rock star. Really, I mean, I joke about it, but I've never actually wanted to. What I've been interested in is going on stage and communicating with people, connecting with people. That's what counts. And trying to, you know, like the first time it really hit me why I was doing what I was doing. I was on stage and I was singing a song about, I don't know, some romantic thing about breaking up with my girlfriend or whatever, as you do. And I looked down and I was up there emoting away, you know, really pouring my heart out. And I looked down in the audience and there was a little goth girl on the front of the stage and she was looking up at me and these big tears were rolling down her cheeks. Which, you know, they were so big I could see them from the stage. And she was, that was like the greatest moment ever because she was feeling what I was feeling. And that was so special because that's such a rare thing to be able to have someone truly understand how you feel and have them empathize that deeply. That was stunning, and that's the reason why I do it.
I mean, ironically, my next question was going to be, what's your most touching moment with sort of a fan? And it sounds like that was probably it.
That was definitely, yeah, I've never forgotten that. It was so important. And, you know, so we do it because we want to communicate. That's the essence of the whole thing. And of course we want people to enjoy it. We want to entertain as well.
Yeah.
And we are very enjoyable to see live. But that's the secondary reason, not the primary reason.
So right reasons.
I hope so.
Now, you must have played in so many festivals over the years.
Yes.
So, as a man of experience, please give us some festival survival tips, whether that be from an audience member or a band member.
Festival survival tips. Echinacea, to increase your immune system, because you're going to be surrounded by people who are really fucking sick and trying to kill you, especially in this day and age. It's important to look after your health because you will get sick. Echinacea is really good. I swear by it. Hydrate a lot. What else? Festival survival tips. Don't be a dick. If you're a band, don't be a dick. I mean, I know so many bands who are just jumped up idiots backstage, and it's just awful. I rarely am backstage because it's really boring. Here's the big secret of rock and roll: backstage is super boring. I mean, you probably think it's like, you know, parties and champagne flowing and like naked girls or whatever. What it is, it's a bunch of fat 50-year-old men sitting around getting drunk, and it's really not fun. I don't like it at all.
And following on from that, where's the favourite place you've performed over the years?
Favourite place? Jesus. Well, next week, next 1 week from today, we're playing the Nocturnal Culture Nacht in Deutzen, which is near Leipzig in Germany. That's one of my favourite festivals. We've played there before, and we're headlining it. We're co-headlining with Nights Are Out next week. And that's a great festival because it's in a forest. It's a beautiful little forest, and they have like stages dotted around. And it's not a huge festival, but it's really lovely atmosphere. And people just hang out in the forest, take it easy. They have a really good lineup of smaller bands, but really interesting. So that's a great festival. I love playing Deutschen. What else is really good? Oh God, I don't know. So many festivals, man.
A lot of good ones.
Yeah. Mira Luna is always fun. We were supposed to play that a couple of weeks ago. We had to cancel because I had COVID. I'm still coughing. But we didn't want to cancel this one. Mira Luna is good. We have Gothic Trip, obviously, is an amazing festival because, I mean, I assume most of the people watching this will have heard of We Have Gothic Trip or been there, but for those three who haven't, they take over the entire city of Leipzig for a whole weekend, and like 25,000 Goths come to Leipzig, and every venue in the whole town is running something. And they have shows in the theatre, in the churches, and it's like a whole cultural experience rather than just a rock festival. Because I don't really go to festivals just to watch a bunch of bands because I'm too old and jaded for that. I've seen so many of them. But I love going to something like We Have Gothic Trip because there's so many things to do there and so many interesting things to see. And people just hang out and it's great fun. So that's definitely one of my favourites.
And having spent so much time in the musical scene, is there any sort of strong life advice that's come across from all of that experience?
Strong life advice? Jesus, now I'm giving life advice. I'm just a rock star. No, even a rock star. Strong life advice. Don't be a dick. I mean, that's the easy one. Don't be an asshole. It's not worth it. It's not worth the hassle. And I speak this as somebody who used to be an asshole. I hope it used to be. Well, the emphasis on used to be. Yes. You know, be honest. Be good to people. I mean, it's not that hard. Be kind. Life isn't that hard, right? I mean, it's hard. I mean, life is difficult for a lot of people. I know. I'm from an extremely poor working class background in Ireland. Trust me, I know how hard life can be. But you don't have to make it harder on yourself. So,
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it certainly does. I mean, there's been some bands I've asked similar, and they started saying, "Well, Dee Snider once said," and other people have instantly laughed. So any advice usually is good advice. Okay, and lastly is actually no, not lastly.
Penultimately.
Not even penultimately.
Okay.
So we have a new thing for Elektro Vox given to us as an idea by Laura. So we have 2 cups. We will have one with silly questions and one with more sensible questions. So if you could pick one out.
Oh, I'm definitely going for the silly question.
One of each, please.
One of each. Okay.
One of each.
Okay. I have.
Okay.
One sensible, one silly. Which do we do first?
Oh.
Am I going to be able to tell the difference?
I don't know. So without swearing, what is the most imaginative insult you can come up with?
There's quite a few. I mean, we used to get heckled a lot when we first started, and so I had a lot of retorts. I'm very used to dealing with hecklers. Like one of my favorite insults is like, "Last time I saw a face like that, Lester Pickett was behind it." One of my favorites live is, "I remember the first time I got drunk."
I mean, it does put you on the spot a little bit, that question,
Yeah.
doesn't it? But yeah, that's got me chuckling anyway. And if only one person attended your performance, who would you want it to be, living or dead, and why?
Richard H. Kirk from Cabaret Voltaire, who's dead now. And I'll tell you a story why that is. Because when I was, I think, 18 years old, I was living in Ireland. I'm from Northern Ireland, you see, it's like talks like that, you know. So I hitchhiked to Sheffield to see the second ever New Order show, right? And it was a festival in Sheffield, and it was a free festival. You just had to turn up there and get the tickets. It was a Sheffield Edinburgh, I think, and it was an incredible line. It was Section 25, who are an amazing factory band that time is forgotten. They were incredible, like really psychedelic and meditative. One of the greatest post-punk bands of all time that time has forgotten was the Comset Angels, who were superb, and New Order, and a couple of other bands. And I saw them all. But when I got there, I hope this story isn't taking too long. So I went to get the tickets before the show, and they went to this little ticket office in the middle of Sheffield, and there was this punk guy giving me tickets, and he said, "You don't sound like you're from Sheffield." And I said, "No, I've just hitchhiked from Northern Ireland to see the show." And he said, "Where are you staying?" And I said, "I have no idea. I'll figure something out." And he went, "Why don't you come back and stay with me and my boyfriend, and you can stay in our house?" And I'm like, "Great." So I went back, with him to the house, and they put me up. And his boyfriend had loads of Cabaret Voltaire records, who were my favourite band, and probably still are my favourite band. And I was like, "Wow, you get loads of Cabaret Voltaire records?" And he said, "Yes, I do their PR." And I'm like, "They're my favourite band." He said, "Well, here's the address of the studio. Go along there tomorrow and say hello." Which was great. You know, you're 18 years old, somebody gives you an invite to go to the studio of your favourite band. It's like, wow. So I turn up first thing in the morning, and Richard H. Kirk from Cabaret Voltaire opens the door, and I introduced myself, and I say, "Well, Marcus said it was okay." He said, "Yeah, come on in." So he brought me into the studio, made me a cup of tea, and we sat there for ages, like hanging out. And then the rest of the band turned up, and we started chatting, and they were super friendly. And then he said, "You know, we're playing in London in a couple of days' time. Do you want to come see us? We'll put you in the guest list." And I was like, "Sorry, no. I have a ticket. I have to go back to Northern Ireland on the boat, and I can't delay. I don't have any money." And they were like, "Oh, okay." And then they said, "Okay, I'll tell you what. We're going to rehearse now. Do you want to watch us rehearse?" And they put a chair in the middle of the studio and set up, and they played the whole show just for me.
Oh.
Right? Can you imagine that? Your favourite band in the world sit you down, and they play their entire live show just for you, because they know you can't go to the show because you're too poor. And even talking about that now, I'm starting to tear up.
That is pretty beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at the end of the show, at the end of the whole thing, Richard came up to me, and he's like super shy. He's like, "Was that okay?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm in floods of tears. Like, it's the greatest thing that's ever happened to me."
Nice.
And I walked out of that studio, and I thought, you know, I will never forget this. And I'd already started playing music, and I knew I wanted to do what I'm doing. And I thought, you know, if I ever be successful, never forget this. Never, always remember how important it was that your idol was kind to you. You know, never forget this. And until this day, I mean, every time we play, after every show, I hang out at a merchandising stand and I talk to everybody in the audience who wants to talk to me, and I'll sign anything, do whatever. Every single show, I've always done that, because I've never forgotten that. So if it was one person, I was playing to one person, it would be Richard H. Kirk to reverse that moment.
That's really nice, thank you. And finally, now, to finish off with, and I think this finishes off on a good point here, what would you like to say to your fans?
Whatever. I mean, I don't really need to do a message like that, because, you know, I'm on Facebook every fucking day, and after every show I'm hanging out with all the fans. Any of the fans who want me to say something to them, all they have to do is ask. All they have to do is have a conversation, send me a message, whatever. I always answer. So I don't want to send like a big, here's a message to all of my fans. I mean, I'd rather just talk to each individual one and have a chat and be a person and relate.
So come say hi.
Yeah, come say hi. That's the message.
Okay, well, thank you ever so much for your time today.
You're very welcome.
And thank you for watching.
Bye.